He's mixing with flair, every sip's a moment. We're happy to share liquid lunch. Pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. The clock don't matter, we're lost in the vibe. Jazz in the air, feel the soul come alive. From martinis to bourbon, we're riding the wave. Stealing this hour, it's the freedom we crave. Sun's still shining, but we're in our zone. This bar's our shelter, our temporary home. One more round before the world calls us back. Savor the moment, keep the blues in the rack. We'll laugh and we'll toast till the afternoon fades. Memories made in these liquid escapades. Liquid lunch, pour it smooth, let it flow. Friends round the table where the good times grow. Raise a glass, let the worries slip away. Liquid lunch, we're living for today. So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun. Our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon. Chasing that jazz under the high noon.
I'm not on camera. I just realized that. I'm wondering if you guys can hear me. Let me know. Have I completely blown the opening of the show? I mean, honestly, not seeing me may not be the worst thing in the world. I mean, I don't have the prettiest mug. Let's be honest here. All right, let's see if this works. Okay, so you can hear me, but you can't see me. So let me get this fixed. Take the camera and hello. There we go. Way too high. Way too high. There we go. There. Oh, professional operation I got going on here. How's everyone doing today? It's lunchtime. Get yourself a drink or a hot dog or whatever it is you like for lunch. Good to see you all. Let's say hi to all you who are patiently waiting for me to get my camera figured out. Welcome, Big Al of Big Al Presents. He says, bottoms up, my friend. Have a great stream. Working on it, my friend. Absolutely working on it. Mark Malikoff says, Mech paw. Here I are, with everything going on in this entire country. Need a trip to the woodshed. Feeling totally disgusted. Don't feel disgusted. Avoid the craziness. Look, anybody who is still living in big cities, you should know better. If you didn't know better before, you know now. Get the hell out. And let's regroup and get our collective heads together. Right? Here's somebody who I hope never gets her head together. She's been with me for 33 years and never come to her senses, and I pray that she never does, or that she never gets her eyesight back. Welcome, Netter of Netters Network. I love you too, my dear. Good to see you. Jonathan Conroy says, smash the like button. Yes, I would greatly appreciate that. It really, really, really does help. And Rosefire is here saying, the freedom we crave, quoting the opening song. Blessings to you this Wednesday afternoon, and blessing to you as well. We are at the halfway point. Liquid lunch on Wednesday is the halfway point of the work week. So there we go. We made it halfway. Now we're on our way out of the week. Smash the like button and subscribe, or face the might of the Klingon Empire. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mark. I super appreciate. Yes. Mark says disengage the cloaking device. Yep, my fault. Though we may need to, I may need to pop in and out for an afternoon chocolate snack. No, I understand. Ooh, one of these Fridays, maybe I'll talk chocolate martini. I think that would be good. Having bagels and salmon, and related sides with coffee. There you go. I may have a bagel when this is done. Bagels make a good booze sponge. If I do face the might of the Klingon Empire, will they like cookies? As long as there's chocolate. As long as there's chocolate, they will probably be good with that. Let's see. And Charles D. Molester, how you doing, my friend? Good to see you. Hello, everybody. I'm on lunch break from the job. Lilo and Stitch will hit $1 billion mark. That is wonderful for that particular one. And we talked about that, I want to say last week. It's the kind of thing where they may be getting the wrong messages, but there's some messages they can't avoid. So hopefully this just underscores and reinforces the quit destroying everything when you remake them. And that's going to get me into our topic for today, which is specifically about the constant remakes that we get. And invariably, almost all the channels that I follow are pretty negative when they talk about remakes. There's one I particularly like. His name is Dan Monroe. His channel is called Movies, Music, and Monsters. And he talks about, just different movies of the past. Movies, music, and monsters, right? Monsters usually in terms of movies. And he doesn't do as much music as he used to, but he was a professional musician. And when he does a musical bit, it's really, really good. He's got some great duets with his wife on that channel. But when he's talking movies, he's usually talking behind the scenes, the history of a film, the props, what happened to the props, some of which he collects. And he's got a certain formula he follows. You can kind of see how it goes where, like he's got a catchphrase, how cool is that, right? And, as he's getting towards the end of the show, he as he's starting to get into the wrap up, he goes, and what about all the sequels and remakes and, so on and so forth. And he's got this very clear bias against, I think he even says, I think his usual catchphrase is, God help us remakes, And I'm here to talk a little bit about remakes, but in a different way. Yes, I agree. The vast majority of remakes are bad. And, but why are they bad? And are they all bad? I'm going to argue that not all remakes are bad. There is a good reason to do a remake. But let's look at the many reasons that remakes are made, how and why. So let's get into it. So I'm going to start with the most basic reason. I think it's the first one that pops into a person's head. Maybe, actually, first I should define what I mean by remake, okay? I am talking about when you create a piece of art. We're going to predominantly focus on film. When someone has made a movie, and then someone else comes along and says, that was a good movie, I'm going to do my own version of it. That's a remake. Another film using the same medium, making a remake, right? The first reason that I think of, and I think it's the one that most people think of, and I think this is appropriate, is it's lazy. It's just lazy. You can't come up with your own ideas, so you're going to steal someone else's. I hate to be so blunt. No, I don't. I like being blunt. That that is predominantly why, we people do what they do. Is they're lazy, they can't come up with their own ideas. Rosefire is, I know you guys are talking between each other. Yeah, don't know if Superman or Fantastic Four will make a lot of money. I have been seeing a lot of Lilo and Stitch merchandise, and fear Disney will just keep rehashing and ruining the past. You're on the right track with me there, Rosefire. We'll get to some of that in a bit. But again, it's lazy. And I think that Lilo and Stitch is actually a great example. I'm not saying that Lilo and Stitch, the movie, was bad. I have not seen the movie myself. I've heard good things. We just did a members rewatch of the original Lilo and Stitch. And honestly, I look at it and go, why does it need to be remade? Why is Disney remaking? They are remaking because they are lazy. And this brings us to the second reason, which is a cash grab. We own a property. This is particularly for Disney, right? But this is true for, I'm going to cast a little bit of shade at Universal and, Warner Brothers and so forth. We own a property, right? We own this franchise, this piece of IP. We want to monetize it. How do we monetize it? Let's keep remaking the same movie over and over and over again. That's not only lazy, but it's a cash grab, right? And don't get me wrong. Let's be honest. Every film is a kind of cash grab. You don't create a movie because you want to lose money, because you just want to throw away money, because you're an artist and you want to make art. I mean, I'm sure some of these auteur filmmakers do feel that way, but they also need to feed themselves. This is their livelihood, so they are trying to make money. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying when you're lazy and doing a cash grab, now you may as well be panhandling. You may as well just be panhandling, right? That's just lazy. I want you to do something to earn that money. If you make a good product, you're going to get my money. I mean, I will pay for it. Absolutely. And that's also kind of a little side note here. Everybody gets concerned about, getting things off the high seas and not paying for it. That's stealing. Well, you know what? If it was good enough and it was worth it, people would buy it. They would buy it so they had it in pristine condition, so they had it. Right? They would cherish it, right? It's not worth paying for me. And if you find some way to keep me from watching it for free, well, sometimes it's so bad it's not even worth the bandwidth, right? The movie Catwoman comes to mind. That one wasn't even worth the time it took to download it. It just wasn't. Parent Trap 98 was a remake of the 61 film of the same name. I like them both for their different aesthetics. Just noticing the first was made when divorce wasn't addressed often in pop culture. That's a great point. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a star on that one because I want to come back to that comment. It is addressed by a point that I want to get to. Hail! And God bless you, brother. Welcome, Jacen Fawkes from 540 Studios. I would recommend that everybody subscribe to Jacen Fawkes from 540 Studios, specifically 540 Studios, and check him out on X. He's a good guy to follow. He just recently shared a conversion story of his that I found a bit inspirational. He's been through a lot, and he is deserving of your friendship. He really is. I think it comes down to copyright, 35-year rule. That's another one I'm going to get. I've actually got, you guys, I like how you think. I got that in my notes. It doesn't help when they are, when they sue fans for making better stuff than they do. That's another piece. That could go down enough of a rabbit hole that it could become a whole separate thing. We have talked about fan films on Last Call, And we actually did do a liquid lunch about fan films as well, but the whole thing about copyrights and trademarks and intellectual property, that could be a conversation in and of itself. But I don't disagree with you, Mark, not at all. I actually agree with you 100%. The 98 Parent Trap version made the heroines younger, not teens, but tween culture. Props for the twins, referring to gold-digging Meredith Blake as Cruella on her black and white ensemble. Yeah, it's a little bit franchise aware, isn't it? They know what studio they're in. So yeah, lazy cash grabs, and cash grabs mostly when they're lazy. If it's, you know, but that gets us into the third point. Messaging and reinventionist history, right? Making a film for the modern audience. And you know what? I think the poster child for this one is Ghostbusters, what was it, 96 or whatever it was? The one that just, in a very lazy way, just completely gender swapped all the main characters. Yes, I know they weren't the same characters, but they were basically the same characters. It wasn't even a good remake, you know, where it takes the same characters with the same situations and retells the story in a slightly different way. No. Basically the same character archetypes, but then, you know, completely change them, gender and whatnot, right? And it was a flop. It was an absolute flop. First off, because people still love the original Ghostbusters. They were like, why do we need a remake of something we already love and watch on a regular basis, right? Which is why eventually they said, okay, we blew it. We're going to do a sequel to the original ones, and we'll just keep the continuity going. And that did well for them. It did reinvigorate the franchise, and that's pretty much mothballed the Lady Ghostbusters, I suppose is the only way to say it. But more important than that, people don't like to be tokenized. That is not representation, right? If you want diverse cast, if you want more of a particular race, a particular gender, other representation, do something for them, their story. Don't just take a man's story and change it and give it. That's hand-me-downs, right? That's you're gonna wear your big brother's clothes, even if you're a girl. You know, that's no. I do not feel seen. I do not feel appreciated. I feel tokenized. I feel like you felt obligated. You've got to, mom and dad have to put clothes on me, so they're giving me my older siblings hand-me-downs. You know, that's, you know, no, that is no. Rumor has it they will remake Scarface in the near future, so that will be the third version of Scarface. Brilliant. That's brilliant. Do we need a third telling of the story? I wish they'd bring back Space 1999, but I'd be worried about what it would look like and what types of stuff they'd insert. You know what? I'm going to put a pin in that one too, because I've got something about reimaginings as well. I wouldn't remind a remake of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Just don't make Mina Murray into an insufferable girl boss. Yes, exactly right. And therein lies one of that. Actually, is a great pivot to the next topic that I had, and this could be a good reason to do a remake if you're doing it to actually improve something that wasn't so good. Now, one could argue that this is probably a bad example because because it's a property that is very, very difficult to adapt. But David Lynch's Dune, we just got through watching the Spice Diver edit over on Live from Sparkwood in 21. And the David Lynch Dune is liked by many and reviled by others. And fans of the original book, Dune, wanted a good, faithful adaptation. The Sci-Fi Channel made an attempt at it. They did a better job in that it was a mini-series, so they didn't have to compress so much. But they were also straddled with a very confined budget. Then we get to Denis Villeneuve, who also split the story up into two separate movies, giving it the room it needed to breathe. He also had the budget he needed. It's not perfect, but in a lot of ways, some great improvements. But I don't want to go too far down the Dune analysis or the Dune example, because let's be honest, that could get into a conversation about good and bad adaptations of something else. I do want to talk more about the remakes. And when you're doing improvements, what do I mean by improvements? There's different ways to improve a previous film, right? For example, new technology, things that you wanted to be able to do, or you think they would have done previously but couldn't do because they lack the technical special effects or whatever. We saw that with a lot of black and white films that were then remade as color, silent films that were remade with sound. I just had a small list. There's a huge, I could go on and on, but Ben-Hur, Wizard of Oz, The Ten Commandments, all films that were originally done in the silent era in black and white, and then eventually remade in color with sound and grand spectacle, right? And I don't think anyone could argue that those are classic films. In fact, I'll bet you that most of you haven't even seen the silent versions of those films, many of which are public domain and available to you right now on YouTube. Particularly in the realm of horror, sensibilities have changed. And I know as soon as I say that, people think, oh, modern audience. Well, in a way, it's true. What was scary and shocking generations ago is like boring now, right? So think about the movie The Fly. The Fly was poignant, but would anyone today call that horrifying? I mean, if you think about it enough, there's a certain existential horror, right? That scene of the little fly with the human head in the fly trap. Help me. Very creepy. Very creepy. Might give you nightmares if you're thinking about it, but in and of itself, not shockingly horrifying. Then Cronenberg comes along and remakes The Fly, and it's like, whoa, this is all kinds of horror. Does it tell the same story? Basically, yeah. I would argue that one element that they changed that they probably shouldn't have is the original story was about a scientist who was married, had a kid. He was a family man. That makes it much more difficult when he seeks his wife's help. That's pretty grim, actually. When it's, a hookup, not so much. It changes the dynamic. But be that as it may, that's actually an example that I would argue is a good remake, right? And then that brings us back to the comment that Mark made earlier, where he said, bringing back Space 1999, the example that I put down too was was Battlestar Galactica. Again, kind of a reimagining because, again, better special effects, better visuals, better cinematography. It had the appearance of a feature film, whereas the original Battlestar Galactica was very, very much 70s episodic television. I think that the original Battlestar Galactica really suffered on some of the sci-fi elements it interjected because they were out of place. They weren't focused on the story they were trying to tell. Throwing in the alien of the week and, you know, all kinds of other stuff that were extraneous to the primary plot, whereas the reimagined Battlestar Galactica was much more focused. There were no aliens. The only aliens per se were the artificial intelligence that were created by the humans themselves, right? You know, so, and I'm not saying anything against the original Battlestar Galactica. I just think that this is a good example of remaking something, making it worth remaking, you know? Ghostbusters 2016 is one example of cultural vandalism. Smearing one's blood over the Mona Lisa is desperate look at me, cry for attention. It is. It's very lazy. It's destructive, right? And like I said, revisionist history, right? Where I haven't even seen it, and I'm not going to see it. But the Fantastic Four movie that's coming out, they are reimagining the 60s. They are taking something that at the time was very progressive. It was definitely a critique of the nuclear family, the relationship, the age difference between Reed and Sue. Reed having been a professor, Sue having been a student, and they end up getting married. It's a little creepy. You could very easily just retell that story without even touching it and have a good pseudo Me Too discussion built from that. But no, they have to go full girl boss, you know, revisionism, and unfortunately that they think they're what they're doing is going to change people's minds and society and so forth. Let me be very clear what these kinds of revisions are, right? The girl boss concept, right? The tokenizing, the over-representation of small minorities of people, right? I'm not talking about, you know, race and gender, which are minorities in the barely terms, right? You know, any race is a subset of the human race, right? And gender is almost 50-50, right? No, I'm talking about, how shall we say, people's preferences in the bedroom, right? We're talking about there's the average person, then there's a small minority that have different preferences, and within that group there's an even smaller group that, you know, has a dissociative disorder, right? So we are going to overrepresent them in our media, right? At some point, that's no longer representation. That's no longer giving equal opportunity. That is a form of supremacy. That is, you will bow down to our superiority. And that is what the girl boss is. That is what making every hero and every villain and every background character in a movie gay, right? There's nothing wrong with being a woman. It's a wonderful thing. Personally, I couldn't care less about whether or not someone is gay. It's a part of your character, just like how you vote and, you know, how you wear your hair. But the point is, if you fixate on that exclusively, I stop caring. I really do. you know? I don't care that much about my own sexuality, let alone yours. Get off my back, you know? So Troy, John Carter had lazy writing. Was John Carter a remake? That was an adaptation. I don't necessarily have a problem with an adaptation. Adaptation isn't necessarily lazy writing. In fact, sometimes adaptation, we just looked at Dune a minute ago. To adapt Dune is, I would argue, even more difficult than writing a story from scratch. Trying to take something as beefy as Dune and reinterpreting it well as a film, very, very difficult. Now, since I didn't read the original John Carter of Mars, you know, the original pulp story, I don't know how good an adaptation it was. But I enjoyed the movie, so I could not necessarily call that lazy writing. I did see the silent version of the Ten Commandments. It was an extra DVD included when I purchased the 56 Ten Commandments. That's nice. That's actually nice. I could totally see them doing the same thing with Wizard of Oz, right? You know, you get a special prestige format of the Wizard of Oz, and it's got the black and white silent film. In an effort to not offend, standards have been targeted of much offense. Yeah. You know, it's like what's the saying? You know, well, honestly, you could just quote Yoda, right? No try. Do or do not. There is no try, right? Because when you try, you're setting yourself up for failure. You gotta sing like you don't need the money, right? Because if you just really, I mean, that was the first thing I learned in vocal class, right? If you get up to a microphone, you gotta sing like you don't need the money. Everyone's gonna be like, oh, geez, right? So you're better off just belting it out, even if you hit wrong notes, right? You know, the passion is what's gonna make it happen. And welcome, Clifton 3D. Hi, everyone in the chat. Welcome to you, Clifton 3D. Good to see you. Lurking and working. Good. Chester D. Molester says, saw the independent film Dangerous Animals last night in theaters. Really awesome horror movie. I'll have to look into that. I will have to look into that. I like this topic and goes hand in hand with an idea I have for a monthly stream. I'll look forward to that. I really will. Make sure you are following Clifton 3D so that you will be able to see that when it comes out as well. So thoughts on Hollow Man. Now, Hollow Man is an interesting case. Hollow Man is not a remake of The Invisible Man, but it uses the same narrative idea, right? Through some sort of technology. You know, scientifically, they discover some way to turn a man invisible, and it has a psychological impact on him, whether it's a side effect of the process or absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? And Hollow Man does a great job of being able to take advantage of the fact that it's a modern story, so it can get away with things that earlier versions couldn't, right? You know, you ask any guy what he would do if he could turn invisible. You're going to hear him say some of the things that Kevin Bacon does in that movie, right? Now, it's always a joke. I'd like to believe that most guys would not be leches and voyeurs because they could, right? I would like to think that if you're a friend of mine, you have more character than that. But you know, I get the joke of it. But but yeah, it's a different character with a different setting. So it's less of a remake and more of a reimagining, sort of a pastiche, if you will. During lockdowns, I researched Hollywood's first heartthrob, Rudolph Valentino. The Sheik was banned in one U.S. city for being too risque. Today, it's banned for being non-PC. Yes, exactly right. Which is a real failing of our culture. It's a real failing of our culture, and this is what I always bring up and point out when I point out that people want to be on the right side of history. That's impossible. It is impossible to be on the right side of history because if you just look at the modern movement to tear down, statues and rename things and whatnot, remember those statues and those street signs and whatnot, they all exist because the person that is being honored in them at the time was considered to be on the right side of history. They were heroes. So whatever you think your thing is today that makes you the good guy, history may look back at you as the bad guy. But most people that are using this phrase, right side of history, are too tunnel vision to understand that. They don't know how to step back and look at it, There's a few things I'd like to do. Yeah. Okay. Oh, wait. We have cloaking devices. Right. Exactly. With great power comes great responsibility. Just going to remind you of that. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea of the remake, right? Why are you doing this? Is it worth doing? And I do feel like there are, and maybe you guys can help me think of some good examples of this. I know there are plenty. Film like, and I used Dune as an example earlier, but it's not the best example. Someone trying to do a story, but not executing it that well. There's a lot to be desired with the original theatrical release of Dune. So it is very tempting to look at that and go, I could do better. Sometimes people do, sometimes they don't. Thus far, for all of the film adaptations, for example, of Superman, that retell his origin story, Richard Donner got it as good as you can get, I think, back in '77. He did the version of Superman that everything else is compared to, and nothing else has come close. So everything is always going to suffer by comparison. This is why it's probably not a good idea to remake a classic. I think that as flawed as it was, Superman Returns, was that what it was called? Superman Returns? The Bryan Singer film? Making it a sequel to the classic 77 Superman was probably a better idea. It's like, you guys know the origin, let's just update the character, assume that, we're doing what the comics do, and just keep the timeline moving forward and continue. The problem was it misunderstood too many things about who the character was, and was a poor Superman story in and of itself. Yeah, don't remake a classic unless you really can make it better. Yeah, look a little closer at Hollow Man. It wasn't a true remake. It was, I mean, let's face it, if they were going to do a remake, first they would have called it The Invisible Man, right? there's a more recent film called The Invisible Man that was a remake. I never saw it. That's been Universal's problem. First, keeping in mind, unlike Star Wars and Superman and the Marvel characters and whatnot, those are trademarked characters that are owned by a studio, and nobody can just make a Superman movie without getting in trouble, right? We were talking about fan films earlier. The Invisible Man, Frankenstein, Dracula, the Wolfman, those are pretty much public domain characters. This is why there are so many Frankenstein movies out there. There are so many Dracula movies out there. Anyone can remake those stories. Anyone can do a Phantom of the Opera. Andrew Lloyd Webber did not have to pay any royalties to Universal when he made the Phantom of the Opera. He just based it on Gaston Leroux's novel, right? Dracula, you just base it on the Bram Stoker's book. And then you can, of course, change it however you choose to. Just be very careful that you don't change it in such a way that it looks too much like someone else's version of Dracula, right? There are very specific things about the Frankenstein that appears in the Universal films, as opposed to the Frankenstein that appears in, like that movie The Bride, you know, with Jennifer Beal, right? Or like we just saw a couple weeks ago, Frankenstein Unbound, right? No one is going to confuse this with, you know, Boris Karloff with the bolts in his neck, right? Those are trademarked, you know, versions of the characters. Those are what are they called? When they're like Mickey Mouse is to Disney. The registered representations that are part and parcel of the company. Yes, that's a great example, though, Nate. And welcome, by the way, Nate. The Creature from the Black Lagoon absolutely belongs to Universal. It's a specific character, whether it's called the Creature from the Black Lagoon by name or Gillman. These and that specific representation of that amphibious creature, that is absolutely a Universal creation and their trademark. Now, what you could do if you wanted to tell a similar story is you could infer, for example, the deep ones from Lovecraft, because in essence that's what the Creature from the Black Lagoon was. He was one of the deep ones from Lovecraft without giving, you know, specific tie back to any of that lore. It's just kind of more of a pastiche, right? Yes, and that's why Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water seems like pastiches The Creature from the Black Lagoon, but it is not, in fact, The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And welcome, Connie Cleary. Good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. So yeah. It's also why Universal has had such a difficult time with their Universal Dark Universe. They've been trying to remake their own IP without first fully understanding what their IP is, what it represents. What are the things about Universal's Frankenstein and Dracula and so forth that make them exclusively theirs? I would even say, Nate, just like you said, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, I would even say the Wolfman is kind of Universal's property. The concept of the werewolf is not. That's why we have so many different werewolf movies. But specifically the Wolfman, right? With that particular character, I forget the character's name. The one that Lon Chaney Jr. played. I'm forgetting him. But you know, that is a very specific story, a very specific werewolf story with a specific lore. That whole, you know, the pentagram on the hand, and you know, when the wolfbane blooms, that whole poem and everything, that is all exclusively Universal. Those elements must be used whenever Universal does, you know, does something with that character. And in fact, that was probably the one example. What was it? Oh, what's his name? They remade the werewolf, same setting, same character. Oh, who was the actor who played him? I can't remember. They didn't tie it into anything else in the Universal line, which I thought was good, but at the same time, it was also a very much a missed opportunity. They missed the opportunity to build on the success of that film. It's going to drive me crazy if I can't remember that movie. The Wolfman remake. It was, yeah, not that 2025 Wolfman. That was not even a werewolf movie. That was a Wendigo movie is what it really was. Was it the one from? Yeah. It was the one from 2010. Benicio del Toro. That was it. And Anthony Hopkins. That was the remake I was thinking of. There's a great example of a good remake. It's a good example of a good remake. I wish they would do that. And that's the other thing that Universal really has to do. They've had all these false starts trying to create their dark universe. If they want to do it, they've got to do it. They've got to make true remakes of their properties. And the only reason they have to even bother is, yes, the cash grab, right, you know, and so on and so forth. But if you are going to make then ongoing sequels, you're going to want to use the same actors, right? So you want to recast Dracula. You want to, you don't want a Bela Lugosi look-alike. You want to recreate that movie as faithfully as possible while updating it, making it in color, you know, real grand, great special effects, all that kind of stuff. But do the best you can to honor the story as it was originally told. The goal being that Dracula and any surviving characters from that will go on and do sequels and possibly, you know, crossovers with others. You're going to want to do, unfortunately, another remake, kind of a remake, was when Universal did The Mummy with Brendan Fraser. They failed to capitalize on that and keep that going. There were great remakes that they just failed to build off of as their cornerstones. Remake Frankenstein. Again, the monster, whoever you cast as the monster, is going to go on to do other movies. So, you know, I don't know. It's sad. I do have a little side project I've been kind of outlining that I want to start doing videos about how I would recreate the dark universe. I'm hoping to get to Epic Universe in 2026 and check out their you know, dark universe, you know, section of the park and see what they're doing with it. See if maybe they're on the right track, but I don't know. We'll see. Curtis Selby, so glad you're here. Yeah. There's really nothing I could do about time zones, right? Because you know, I try to do liquid lunch at noon for Central Time Zone, but that means it's going to be starting maybe too early for the East Coast. Maybe it's too late for the people on the West Coast. It's more like liquid brunch for people in California, right? And it could be a late night show for someone on the other side of the globe. So I don't know what I can do about that. Let's take a look. I'm gonna do a quick refresh on my and see who is live right now. Is Midnight's Edge still going? Let me see. There they are. No, looks like they ended 7 minutes ago. So I am not going to forward you guys to anyone because I don't see anyone live that I can forward you to. But what I am going to do is ask you guys to check out Netter's channel, specifically her community tab. She's going to be on. She's going to be guesting on someone's channel tonight. I want to say 9 Central. So she should have the link up, or at least information about the stream. So go check that out. See if you can't do a raid over there tonight. Give it a thumbs up. Tell the host that you're there because Netter, and support her in that way. As soon as I end the stream, I'm going to try putting together behind the scenes, trying to reach out to a guest for Thursday things for tomorrow. I also got to get the stream put together for Friday, where our guest will be Stark of Iron. So I'm looking forward to that. I got to get the stream up so I can start promoting it. It's already on Netter's community tab. She shared it out on Twitter, so make sure you're also following Netter on Twitter. Speaking of which, I have updated the format of the video descriptions. So starting today and going forward, before you see all of your own names, the supporters of the channel that I tag in it, I have listed, and I would appreciate if you would check on that and click on those links. I have listed my X and Rumble feeds. Please follow me in both of those places. X is a great place to get notifications if YouTube isn't getting them out to you. Almost everything that I do here on YouTube is simultaneously streaming to Rumble and to X. So if you happen to be on X, you can just open it up and watch Liquid Lunch. And if anything ever happens to this X channel, those are the places I will continue this stream. I will continue to do what I do regardless of the platform, but that's why I need you guys to also be following me on those other platforms. And that is all I had for today. Remakes aren't bad, but most of them are. That's the topic for tonight. In the future, I'll be talking more about this figure that I just finished. This is the Gourmanda figure from the holiday special. I'll probably do a video about that and some of my other holiday special figures. Here's one that I just need to finish the card back for. He's one of the Cantina denizens specifically from the holiday special. And I'm going to be having more toy videos coming up very soon. I have a couple things coming in the mail that are going to become a toy video that's going to have the subheading of fans doing the best work, and yeah. So guys, I thank you so much for sharing your lunch with me today. I thank you so much for all the ways that you support me. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. I need that kind of reinforcement. Don't let the trolls ratio us. Subscribe if you're not subscribing. Hit that notification bell. I know the notification bell doesn't always work, but it's definitely not going to work if you don't hit the notification bell. If you are a member one of the unwritten perks of membership is that I tag you in every single video. So you should get a notification if you hit that notification bell. You should get a notification because Troy has mentioned you in a video, which will bring you to whichever one is going live. You will also know when I put something up on my community tab about a video going live. So there should be 3 different ways members are getting notified of my streams. And of course, at least with live streams, I am very consistent. I start every Friday at 9 Central, last call. I start Geeky Geezers every Sunday night at 8 o'clock Central. I start Liquid Lunch every single weekday at noon Central. If you don't get a notification, you still know where I'm going to be on those days at those times. So anyway, I want to thank all of you once again. You guys really are the best. I love having a drink with you guys. You guys all take care of yourselves. Take care of others. Until next time, see ya.
Goodbye. Hope to see you again real soon.
So here's to the daylight, the drinks and the fun, our liquid lunch, till the next one comes. With a wink and a smile, we'll be back real soon, chasing that jazz under the high.